Welcome to Reaching Out. We've got a real interesting program lined up for you tonight. We're going to talk about peace and how to make peace. How can we make peace with our neighbors? We're going to talk about the cairns of society and a whole of a lot of other things. In the meantime, we got a couple announcements that you all need to know. So here, Wanda,
Okay.
tell us about it.
Well, we have lots of things going on every week at Reaching Out. We start out the week with Sunday school and Sunday morning at 9:30 for all ages. And at 10:30 we have our worship service. After that we have a pot blessing every Sunday. Not everybody does that, but we do. So we enjoy fellowship and lunch and a good time. And on Monday morning, we have some more fellowship and breakfast at 7 a.m. at the Sweet Temptations Cafe in Whitehall. And so you're invited to come to that anytime. Anyone can come and sit in on the Bible study. On Thursdays, we have food from 9 to 11 on the first and third Thursday of the month. All other Thursdays, the second, fourth, and fifth, are in the afternoon from 3 until 5. So we give you various hours so you can work it into your schedule. And we ask for a $10 donation because this program runs on the customer. And it's enough to help us keep the program going. But if you don't have the $10, we certainly will still give you food. So we have this exciting event coming up this coming Sunday, March 23rd. We are ordaining a new pastor, and that is Ricardo Rivera, who is sitting over here to my right. He is going to be our new pastor. He is taking over for us. We're not leaving him. We're going to be there to help out, but it's going to be a good day. This will be at the 10:30 service, and Jim Ricardo, the head of Rain Ministries that we're licensed with, will be speaking and taking part in the ordination, as will Tim Davies from Ohio, who is second in command, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. So two of the leaders of the organization will be with us that day, and we're having lunch following. We invite anybody who wants to come out. You can come out to it.
Yeah, and if you can't make it for the service, realizing that you'll be in church, come after your service is over and meet him. It ties right into what we're going to talk about. We're in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. And if we can make the world one step better, that's a good deal.
Amen.
It's a good deal. And we love this guy. We love him. We've known him since he was 14. And
that long?
Yeah, that long.
It's been that long.
That hasn't
Time
been
flies.
that long at all. But, yep, he is passionate for Christ.
And you know, his theme cry, give me that seat. The theme cry is to make it family friendly. You know, I and Wanda we've run all over the world, and you kind of lose contact with the local people. But Pastor Ricardo, he wants to make contact with the local people. And I want to apologize to the people that offered us all that food that we couldn't pick up because of a variety of circumstances. I apologize for that. And if you have a pallet of food or a box of food or a bag of food, don't be afraid to bring it out. We will distribute it to somebody that needs it. And I'm going to say this. We just got a company called me. They got a pallet of apples they're going to drop off. So we're going to have 120 bags of apples to pass out. You know, why not use that? Why throw it away? Think about that. Why throw it away? You know what? That doesn't make my peace happy. We pay taxes, we provide food, and we throw it away. I didn't even want to go there because we're throwing away 40 to 60% of all the food we raise in this country. That's disgusting. But let's not go there. Let's talk about
Peace.
let's talk about what we can do to have more peace in the community, more peace in our government, more peace wherever we go. So with that thought in mind, how do we deal with the person that says, I have rights?
Depends on how we want to use those rights. So I guess I'll recalculate a little bit something. If you guys watch any of our videos through YouTube, the main thing that we spoke about on Sunday was about peacemakers, right? We got to know the difference between what is a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. And the way that you kind of identify that will kind of determine the outcome of whatever we do. You know, if we look at somebody's, well, I have my rights. Yes, everybody has their rights. They're entitled to those things. But at the same token, it depends on how you're utilizing that right. Is it for edification? Is it to build people up? Is it to bring something forth, a cause, and fight for people who really need that support, right? But then there's others that we just abuse that right. And that's one of the biggest things nowadays, is that we've kind of abused it to the point that we're not really creating peace. We're just looking how it best benefits us specifically, instead of benefiting for the greater good of everybody else.
Zoe, what do you think?
For the people who usually say that, you know, that they have rights, as you phrase this question, and as Ricardo just said at the end of his saying there, I think most people, they're kind of almost grabbing for control now, that they want to, it's not enough that they have the right to be, because that was what, you know, we were founded on. You have the right to be whoever you want to be, and now it's not enough that you have your rights to be. You want to have the right to control others. So that's where I see where it's like you have these people, as you said at the beginning, like the Karens, who are imposing their ideas on others or whatnot. And
so what about the person that's being imposed upon? Don't they have rights?
They do, of course. Of course they do.
Okay, so how do you bring the two sides together?
The two sides coming together, it has to be a conversation. It has to be a conversation and not an inflammatory argument. A lot of our conversations these days are inflammatory. We are not.
But I don't want to talk to that person.
Well, exactly. But that conversation still needs to happen. I find that we're so separated, and we all go and hide in our corners of the world and behind our phones, and we can't actually bring ourselves anymore to sit down and have a conversation.
So let me address this. Peacekeepers, peacemakers. A peacekeeper is somebody who basically ignores a problem or tries to maintain the status quo. As long as it's benefiting them, right, they're going to do whatever it is so they maintain either control or their own benefit. And sometimes there are things that there are brokenness, there's sometimes abuse, those kinds of things that we kind of push down, and eventually it'll come to a point that and this is how we sometimes have Karens in the world, right, is that it's something that triggers people because they've hidden those things, they've only covered those things instead of addressing and having that full-on conversation about what my rights is, right? We have a right, yes, but the people that are being, you know, the ones on the other side of the coin per se, they also have a right to the point that we need to also understand where they're coming from, and we have to come to understanding how things come together, how things are going to get better, because if you don't address it, and sometimes it'll make people uncomfortable, and that's a lot of it right now. We don't want to we want to stay in our comfort zone. We don't want to get out of that, and because of that, we avoid the problems, and we just say, well, you go on your side, I go on my side, and we don't speak to each other. That's trying to maintain a peace.
That's a good idea.
And that's to a lot of people, and that's where the word says, is that I have come to bring my peace, not like the world gives it. So that means there's a version of a peace that we're all good with here on this earth. But that's not the peace that Jesus came to bring. Okay. It was a peace that was going to make people uncomfortable, but it was going to address the issues that we have so that we completely have an understanding of that we're in the same boat.
So how do we cross that bridge?
Humility, be able to get over ourselves and not always look for our own benefit. We have to understand that there's many sides to things, and we have to become more active. Listen, we have to completely understand where people are coming from.
Do you really think people want to be humble?
Not in this age.
No, because that's the idea of peacemaking. As you said, you need to kind of address what makes you uncomfortable and essentially have conversations. And that's the really difficult thing in this day and age, is that I don't want to talk to you. I do not want to listen. What you said also with humility is listening. People want to talk over one another so much these days, as far as I see it. I don't know if you feel the same way as when you were growing up, Grandpa. People always talked over each other. But I just find the ability to listen to others is very strained right now. Mm-hmm. It's very strained. And I think a lot of it is because the conversations get so inflammatory, because people are getting their talking points and pieces off of social media about, how they feel, and about what they think with things. Because you can get advice from someone about how to garden, about how to clean your car, about how to organize your dishes, and they will tell you so strongly that if you don't stack your plates just like that, that is a ridiculous thing to not do. Mm-hmm. And people have, this presence online that if you're not shouting at the camera about whatever you want to do, it's not going to pick up views. And when you see that all day long, it's kind of, I think, become ingrained in how we speak to each other to some degree. Not to a big degree, but it's interesting to see, especially with the upcoming generation. In case you don't know, Ricardo, I'm a middle school teacher.
Nice.
So if you want to talk about people talking inflammatory things to one another, feel free to come sit in my classroom one day.
I'd love to. I mean, I know it's not the same as you, but I know you got probably a greater burden there than I did. Mm-hmm. But I also taught Sunday school, and it's one of those things that they feel like if you're the one that speaks the loudest, that's the one that's going to get heard. And that doesn't mean that they're always right, mm-hmm. right? And I'll partner up with you on that one section where sometimes with peacekeepers is that we always want to please people. We always want to have a certain way, mm-hmm. and we revolve ourselves around that social media platform or that person, that influence person, and we make that a whole world, and we forget to really open ourselves to there's more to this. Mm-hmm. And we can't close ourselves with our social media, our own thoughts, our own ideals. Sometimes we have to open up to the other world, mm-hmm. and we miss out on opportunities that way.
Can you exert your rights without judging? Or do we have to judge? You see something, and here's a perfect example of judging. You're going down the road, and we had this experience. The guy come over, we're coming around the corner, and he's about 2 feet on my side of the road. I mean, he's hauling tail. He's headed for trouble, I think. That was a judgment. Mm-hmm. How can you not judge people and accept them in humility?
So and I'm going to get into a little bit of the spiritual sense, is that in this world, it is a broken world, it is a sinful world, and it's going to take some sort of level of discipline, right? Are we human enough that we're going to judge automatically? It's just part of our nature. You see one thing and it's just not to your liking, you're judging already. Yep. But it's a matter of how do you control your flesh? Do you put into submission and you understand that what am I going to say? Is it going to build? Is it going to cause somebody to get hurt, feel broken? We have to understand that part of it. So we can have our rights, right? But at the same token, you need to understand how you're going to utilize that right.
People just like to fight.
Well, then there's some deliverance there.
What do you think, Wanda? You're pretty quiet over here.
Well, I'm listening to the next generation or two down. It's good. It's interesting. People like to fight. I think today it's different than it was. Zoe said, well, I don't know how it was, Grandpa, when you were younger. When we were younger, I don't think people just came right out and were nasty and fought with one another like they do now.
Oh, mercy, mercy, mercy.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
And granted, some of those things have changed over time, right? I mean, if we look at the beginnings of, revolution and everything else, yes, they were fighting for rights, but one of the things that in every common story of the American history is the fact that they came and under one mind. They didn't look at just what benefited the company, the individual, or corporations. It actually benefited the country, benefited
Right,
the
common
families,
good.
the people that needed
Yep.
the actual assistance. They were looking out for a common good. And one of the things that today is that we've had it so well that the only thing we can focus on is our own benefit.
We
And
have
so-
it very
right.
well. We have it very, very well, and I don't think people quite realize
Mm-hmm.
there's still more to go, but then it's kind of become a bit of a grab. Well, if this poor person's going to get more, I want to get more now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been, the common good has become diluted. We don't
Mm-hmm.
understand what the common good is at this point in time, it seems like. But I think a big thing, as I said, that we have it so good, and that Grandpa said people just like to argue. Well, part of it, I think, is boredom at this stage, why people are having so much trouble finding peace. And I think ultimately it is because we are bored. If we can't find this common good, like you said, with revolutions all throughout the 1900s and multiple different stages, if there's not a common good to push for or rally for, and then you kind of try to find something maybe personal or something selfish, it's
You want to do expression.
yeah, and
You know, I want to reiterate something from my childhood. I'm probably the oldest one on the show, but
you are
You are.
not probable.
I grew up in a town that we had 14 bars and no restaurants. There was no restaurants. We had a drugstore. And that
And
was
back
it.
then, the bars didn't serve food either.
And the bars didn't serve food. You might have got a bologna or a pickled egg or something. And one of the things that we did for expression is you'd go to town, you'd get into a scrap, you'd go to a wrestling match, or you'd go to, they even had bare knuckle boxing then, and that was your point of expression. Are we reverting back to that kind of animal lifestyle?
Well, I think no. I think the discipline that we mentioned before is also about finding your peace. You, as you grew up, you realized that, and you became more disciplined because going and bare knuckling, fighting, or whatever at the bars, you realized is not going to find you peace in any which way, or not going to be productive. But
But you got satisfaction.
yeah, you sure did. But you became, I'm sure you did. But you became more disciplined in, the idea that your peace was more important than that temporary satisfaction of getting to knock some poor sap out at the bar, right? And I think it's interesting because, and now it's not as, maybe seen as vocal right now with our arguments where we are. It's not seen as something that is messing with your peace. I don't think people realize the conversations they engage with or the things they engage with in social media, how much that affects their peace and prevents them from having peace, and their daily actions, that they don't realize being disciplined in in the TV they watch, in the things they see on social media, in the people they talk with, or how they talk to others. I don't think people realize these daily actions that they engage with, how much it's affecting their peace.
What affects their
I
peace?
agree
because
wholeheartedly.
this goofy television and these phones and this computer. I was going to make a video, a YouTube video, and I was going to take one of these computers and a sledgehammer and just smash it.
But my question is, if you go down to the bar and you get red in the face and you're screaming at somebody, usually you probably wouldn't have done that for at least another 2 weeks, maybe another month, right? But we log onto our phones and we scroll and we see someone screaming about something
Every minute.
and we just scroll and scroll and scroll. You wake up, most people wake up, what do?
Check your phone.
You grab your phone and you see the people screaming on Facebook, and you see the people screaming on Instagram or YouTube, and then you're at lunch at work, and then you're at the bathroom, and then you're at home before dinner, and then before you go to bed. And psychologically, I seriously wonder what that does to us. Because if people are too nice on social media, usually you're not going to watch that. I mean, to some degree, yes, if you're more disciplined. I have deleted all social media recently because it's too much negativity about everything. About just everything. There's things about teaching, how people are really upset at the state of education or about how teachers are being treated. And I'm quite happy. I'm quite content with my life. And I almost feel wrong saying that because the last year I've been on social media and it started targeting me as a teacher. It's like I should be so unhappy that I've got so much workload. It says things that parents make the teachers do everything these days. And I'm like, okay, I guess. Like, I don't know. I've been content, but it's going to tell me I'm not. And so I find that very interesting. I think discipline's a huge thing to kind of step away, and you have to think about what you are consuming and how it affects you.
Right. Well, it stole your peace. See, it was stealing your peace. It steals my peace to watch too much news and to be on social media too much. It steals your peace.
We can watch a a detective show, and then she'll say, well, we got to watch something funny because I have to get unhooked.
Yeah, that's true.
She can't sleep.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes a psychological thing, like you mentioned, because if you look at your surrounding, if that's the constant culture you're going to be around with, it's going to start affecting even the way that you think. It's going to start affecting your behavior to the point that you think that the behavior that's happening on social media is an acceptable sort of culture, and that cannot be the case. So it's no different. Like, for example, have you guys ever seen those roses that if you put them in a certain type color, that if you put them in there, eventually the petal becomes of that color. So if you surround yourself with waters like that, it eventually starts to build up and you become that color. So there's a lot of discipline that has to take place in those aspects. Because if you don't discipline, you say, hey, this is not the right water, you need it, you'll eventually become it.
And that can be, that can be anything. I use social media because, as what they said, that was what was affecting my peace as a person. But it could be a person in your life that that you've thought about, oh, maybe this person isn't that good for me, like a friend, but you still keep them around, and maybe it's time to think about setting boundaries and having a conversation about that. Whatever affects your peace, think about why are you consuming this still? Why is this still being around you? And what steps can you make to protect yourself?
Okay, I want to say something here because they generated a whole raft of thinking up here. I'm old school. I'm old school. I'm 86 years old, so I'm pretty old school. But I'm on my computer, and every time I try and do something, Microsoft loaded AI on it, so now I have AI telling me what I should be doing. But one thing that I will say about AI, and when I was trying to get some notes together for this show, is it was telling me what kind of words I could use, how I should do it. So how is AI trying to straighten out some of this toxic life that we're living?
And to some degree it could, sometimes not. It just depends on what the trend is, right? Depends on what this culture is. But it's one of the things that go back to what Paul said. Well, everything's available to me doesn't mean that everything will benefit me.
Right.
So, and AI is one of the things that it'll give you a vast ocean of everything.
Oh, Lord, yes.
But at the same token, doesn't mean everything out there should be consumed. Not everything should be part of that. So if you're digging into it, then it'll continue feeding you those kinds of content.
But see, where do you build it? Now, Zoe brought this up. Where's the discipline come in? You know, I don't want it, but it's kind of forced on you. It's kind of like scrolling the toxic messages.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that it's more of where do you want to head with this? Because if you know that it's not bringing you peace, you know it's not getting anywhere, why stay? And sometimes it puts you in a position where you have to make some tough choices where you're going to have to restart. You're going to have to make some new friendships. So some of them, friendships must need to end. There's certain things that will have to happen that will put you in an uncomfortable position. But at the end, it was the right decision.
Right. And it's always been like that. There's, that's not different. We have to make choices all the time as far as our relationships and our time. And so that's not different. I don't know. AI comes and pops up and tries to tell me
What you should
when
do.
when I ask a question, but I can ignore it.
Well, I got rights. I
Well-
don't want it to pop up and tell me what I have to
but
do.
what when you
phone.
told it that, what did it say? Tough.
Yeah,
I'm here to stay.
Yeah.
Tough. Okay.
I couldn't delete it.
So I have a couple of scriptures.
Go for it.
Oh, yes.
Way back in the Old Testament, Isaiah wrote this: "You will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because you trust in him, in the Lord." It's what we focus on. It's no different. It's always been like that. It's what you focus on expands. What you focus on is your strength and what's going to see you through. So if you focus on the Lord and what He wants, then this whole thing becomes easier. Not real easy sometimes, but easier. Then there's another scripture. In Colossians, it said, "Let the peace of Christ be in control in your heart and be thankful." So there's that peace again that we need to have firmly within us and be thankful. In the middle of the night when I can't sleep, and I have that going on sometimes, I pray for the peace of Christ to control my heart, and I'm grateful. I'm thinking of all the things I'm grateful about, all the things I'm thankful. I'm thankful I'm here. I'm thankful I'm still breathing.
Yes, I am too.
I have friends I've lost in the last 5-6 years, many friends that are not here anymore. I'm thankful I'm still here. I'm still here to watch Zoe develop and
I'm trouble.
and,
I'm trouble.
and her brother.
This brings the question up. How do you confront somebody? Christ came with the 10 Commandments. How do you confront somebody and tell them they're doing something wrong without becoming a Karen or out becoming, we've all watched Judge Judy and Judge Porter and these other shows. We've all watched these lawsuits, and some of them are so crazy, it's unbelievable. So how do we confront without creating trouble?
Understanding why. You got to understand, if you're going to go up to tell somebody you're wrong or that what you're doing is not the right pathway, you have to understand the why behind it. Because if you just come along and tell, well, you're wrong and I'm right,
Phew, it's going to go straight up.
we're gone. The conversation is over.
Yeah.
If anything, there won't be a conversation. But you have to understand the reason behind it. You have to do some research. You have to understand why is it that they do is wrong and how it's really affecting them. And you have to allow them to see the truth. Once again, it goes back to that verse, the truth will set you free. So the way it's going to make things better or have people see the right way or the true pathway to actually having true peace is by understanding why you're in the situation you're in, why is it that you feel the way you feel, and why are we in the position that we are.
Well, you guys brought up another good question.
One thing to say before you switch. So I like that you brought up how you're going to bring the conversation to the possible, peace troubler there to be to understanding the why. But also, if you do have someone that comes to you and you're the one who's apparently troubling them, you don't get to say, how do I want to phrase this? You don't get to say that you didn't hurt somebody. So if I tell grandma saying that you hurt me, you don't get to decide that you didn't, because you can't change my feel. Like, if you hurt me, you don't get to decide that you didn't. Obviously you must have. And I think that's sometimes a hard pill for people to swallow, is to understand that they did something wrong. You don't get to, tell someone, no, you didn't, I didn't hurt you. That's their feelings.
And not only that, but sometimes we don't even have the patience to, in this rapid, quick-moving world, we don't want to take the time to understand of why people feel hurt. We have to actually understand, well, if that hurts you, if I don't understand, okay, it's human, but at the same token, I want to understand why it is it that it hurt you. Because that will have a lot more weight to it than just saying, well, I don't care about your feelings. I'm just going to say what I'm going to say because I know I'm right. No, if somebody gets hurt, let's understand why they got hurt, because there could be things in life, experiences, something that could have triggered the person to feel hurt or bring something back up.
And usually people's reactions are to get defensive, which is understandable.
It's human behavior.
No one likes to hear that they're wrong, that they've done something bad. No one likes that. But however, you just have to take a second and take a breath and realize, that if you hurt someone, you don't get to say that you didn't. And now, how do we move forward from here? How can we have this conversation?
So let's hypothetical. You said you were a school teacher. You're doing this. So this parent comes in because their little kid,
Johnny.
their kid
Angel.
that doesn't do any problems, threw a brick through your car window. How do you address that without being upset?
I think I have a lot of patience for kids, because most likely I think if a kid is so angry that they're gonna throw a brick through my window of a teacher they see for maybe an hour and a half a day, there's something going on. I'm immediately understanding the why behind why these actions were, especially as an educator. That's got to be the first thought. Something's going on elsewhere in the little angel's life that is causing it. And if the parent's reaction was that they're not at fault, well, we kind of start correlating
The issue.
And if it was something, obviously, if I am being physically threatened, now I'll have to go to administration or something like that, because part of it is I can't fix the situation. I can talk to them and I can give them my facts, and I can't necessarily bring up the why, because if the why is the parent, I can do my best to control the conversation, but point out, obviously this behavior is wrong. Obviously, this behavior cannot happen in society, right? It cannot happen now.
Right.
And what are we going to do about it? Because whether you think it was my fault or not, that something happened in my class that caused the student to throw the brick through the window.
That behavior is
But this behavior isn't just in the classroom. Was it something I said? Okay, so maybe I yelled at the student. What happens when he goes out in public and goes out to a restaurant and maybe someone says something he doesn't like there? Okay, can he throw a brick through their window? Absolutely not. So realizing that it is the behavior in, as the unit, because whether it was truly something that I had said that just made this kid very upset, we have to be able to regulate and control our emotions, because, we see what happens on airplanes.
Yeah,
and we've all seen
it keeps accelerating.
It keeps accelerating with people getting kicked off of airplanes. Like, they talked about how many people on no-fly lists because of especially during COVID and having to wear a mask on an airplane and not being able to follow that rule. And even once those rules were done and are no longer in place, there has still been a lot of incidents on airplanes recently. I saw it myself where the flight attendant told the gentleman to put his bag here, that there was no room in the back of the plane where his seat was. And this gentleman just gets so angry at the flight attendant, starts swearing at him, saying, "You're not going to take my bag from me." And he's like, no, I'm not. there's no overhead storage in the back of the plane. It has to go here. And the man got removed from the plane.
Yeah, I was on a flight that they took a guy off.
Yeah. So you have to start with the why, and then you have to show the reasons why this continued behavior will, not work. So even if it was your own personal relationship with a partner or with a friend, you can kind of tell them, why their current behavior isn't working for you and how in the future, if this progresses, it's really not going to work.
How do we correct this?
Yeah, how can we stop this now before the friendship or the partnership just burns? Because right now we're sparking, right? How do we stop it before the house is on fire?
Society is sparking.
Society is sparking. Society is very sparky. It's a sparkler.
So how do we stop it? What can we do individually to stop this kind of behavior? We see it all over. We see it all over. I had a guy shake his fist at me on the road. I'm not even sure why, but he was not happy with whatever I was doing. Mm-hmm. I apparently wasn't driving fast enough for that. He passed me shaking his fist at me.
Well, you probably couldn't stop and communicate with him. But
see,
He would have loved to
he
talk
was
to you.
sparky. I like that.
He was
He was
sparky.
sparky.
he was, and
What I should have done is tromped on it
No.
and taken it, throwing a brick at him.
No.
stay out
No.
of his way, because you can't communicate with
What do
him
we do
at
with that?
Well, I mean, people
Road
are
rage?
People are dealing with different things. I mean, whether that be that day or whether it be something that they have decided to just push down in their lives, and it now becomes a trigger. Every time somebody tries to touch something that they feel very strongly about or were hurt or broken by, if you touch any of that, they're going to spring up that way. If people are acting in anger and bitterness, it's because there's something that has not been addressed or they refuse to address it.
Right.
So oftentimes we
But
have to realize it's not about that specific person. Because the man who shook his fist at you knows nothing about you, Grandpa, but maybe the way you were driving was endangering him and could be endangering others. I'm not sure. I think you're a great driver.
Well, I was driving the speed limit, and I was.
Right, but it wasn't about you specifically, and I think that's why we do have so many sparks when these conversations come up, because people take it as a personal attack on your character, on you as a whole, when usually it's not that. It's not entirely about you, okay? Because we all have our own dispositions. Part of it comes from you and the person you need to have a conversation with, as well as society. Society as a whole is not to blame. There's multiple influences that got us to where we are today.
Right.
Right? We have no control over that.
Does anybody have any opinion on how we can correct and change some of this stuff?
But you
Well-
do have control how you act.
Yes. Yes, you
You
do.
don't have control of the
I didn't
society
I
you
didn't
live
throw
in.
a brick at him.
Yes.
He pulled out and he drove in front of me. I was driving like 56, 57 miles an hour. He pulled up in front of me, and he drove about the same speed. And I followed him all the way to Eau Claire.
Well, in that particular case, that's about all you could do.
Yeah.
Get out of his way. You could sit in your car behind him and pray for him and be thankful that he didn't hit
I mean,
you
he
or
wasn't.
ram you or do something destructive. But you aren't in a position to do any more than that, because you can't have a conversation with the
Well,
person.
I had a conversation with him because I didn't run into him.
Well, yeah,
See,
right.
but that's true too.
Yeah.
We talk
That-
about road rage.
You were
Part of
keeping the
it's
peace.
Your practice of keeping your peace and your discipline,
Right.
and not thinking about to your bar fight days.
I mean, those are the key parts.
Those are gone.
Those key parts are really, it really comes down to these three factors. Number one, humility. Number two, it takes discipline. And number three, we got to also stop feeding into self-gratification, because that's one of the biggest things, like we were talking the other time in the car, is that with this generation, or just in general, progressively, we have been trying to feed more into the endorphins that in our brain, that we always want self-gratification. We want to feel pleasure. We want to feel instant good feeling every single time, and we overdose on it, and then next thing you know, we have a disbalance in our thoughts.
Right.
You know, I want to say something here. I'm learning something from this show. I really am. And with Ricardo and Zoe here, I am impressed. I'm really impressed. I love their wisdom. I love the things they're talking about, because that's what's going to change society. They love the people they work with. They love the people that they have to discipline, and they, you know, you can just see it just radiate off what they're doing. I think that one thing that we're missing is we don't love each other. We put each other as a competitor. We become predators. And as a result, when we see somebody confront us, we want to prey on them. We are going to show them. And I always use this analogy, but we don't even have it anymore. But some of us old people know what a fire hydrant is. And we know what the dog does to the fire hydrant. And you know what? We still have to act like that dog, because we want a better one than the other one. We want to better up. We want to be better than.
And see, some people on.
I lost Zoe.
I figured it out. Don't worry.
Oh, boy.
Don't worry.
Because I wanna break that down, right? So you say we have to love each other, and a lot of people may think that, well, love is, oh, I love you, Alan.
Yeah,
I love you.
that isn't love.
That isn't
That's
love.
emotion.
That's emotion. That's an expression of love.
Yes.
But when we look at true love, you actually want to love your brother. You want to love the people around you. It means you're going to take the time to understand them, and it's going to take some moments where there's going to be some bad feelings. There's going to be some uncomfortable moments, and that means that you're going to still stick through it, right? Because if we look at God's love, right, it doesn't leave us.
It doesn't leave us.
It doesn't leave us because of the fact that we may be sinful, we may make mistakes, we make really bad things, or sometimes we get angry with Him, but yet He doesn't leave us. He still continues being with us regardless of our actions.
Because he's disciplined.
Because He's disciplined enough to understand who you are as a person. He's not saying that your decisions are right, but He understands where those actions are coming from, and He wants to address those very things. So the same aspect comes to us, is that if we want to love people, and you really want to say love them and care for them, it means that you're gonna, regardless whether they may or may not agree with you, you're gonna want to understand them one way or another, or just understand where they're coming from.
You know, and I don't want to get into politics, but you know what? The people in Washington have to start loving each other, or we ain't going to have no Washington. Mm-hmm. You know, Zoe said it. It's the society is sparking. We need to start understanding each other and working with each other. I agree 100%.
You gave him a new word.
Yes. Yes. We're known for our fireworks, this country.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
And we're definitely fireworking.
You know, and I'm impressed. I really am impressed with you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I needed that.
I could actually sit and watch her show.
No, but they're very important, critical parts. I mean, once again, I don't want to get into political either, but if we come under one mindset, and that's one of the things, even while I was over in PA, one of the things that really came to me was the fact that when we look at the Holy Spirit, when it came upon the people in Book of Acts, when the Holy Spirit came down, it specifically said that they were of one mind.
Yep.
Unity.
There were one unity.
Yes.
They all have different problems. They all had different scenarios. Some of them may have different needs or really purposes of why they wanted to be there, they wanted to accomplish. But one of the first things that it says that before anything could happen, before love and everything else could manifest, it says that they were filled by the Holy Spirit. And a lot of times, even in the churches itself, we often like to look at God use me, God use me, God use me. But the thing is, you haven't allowed for God to fill you, to have one single mindset. Because when you connect to the Spirit, you are connecting to the head. You're connecting to God.
Right.
And when you connect to that, then everything else comes into place easily.
In the family, the community, the government, we should be of one spirit with one goal.
Exactly.
To make tomorrow better than today.
Which is why every single day we should be saying, God, fill me with your Spirit.
Yes.
Because that will align me to the one mindset.
Amen.
You know,
Amen.
Oh, man, I got a lot to think
that's,
about.
That's true in marriage too, because I have people ask, "Oh, wow, you've been married almost 64 years?"
I've
Yes.
asked her that every day of my life. I've known her for a few years now. Maybe it's because I know my grandpa, but anyways, Grandma.
We love you, brother.
You gotta love him.
We gotta love him.
Oh, Zoe, I love you.
You set that one up, Grandma. Come on.
Anyway, there's a scripture in the Bible. It says, three-strand cord cannot easily be broken. And that can be applied to marriage. Without God in the marriage, it's very, very much harder. So that's the three strands: the husband, the wife, and God. And it's very, very much harder to have a long-lasting, happy marriage without God. It's just harder.
It won't work. Let me share something, and then you can go on. I did a wedding not too long ago, and one thing I always tell the newlyweds is their day is going to come, the toast will be burnt. So, all right, so the toast is going to be burnt. I got a call from this guy shortly after he had been married, and he says to me, he says, "You know what, Alan?" He says, "You never told me how black it was going to be burnt."
And I go back to what you said on Sunday. You're lucky that you even had toast those one days.
Yeah,
It's the truth.
There are days the toast gets burnt.
Yeah. But you know, that little unit, the husband, wife, and God, that is just expanded into society. The principles are the same.
Principles are the same.
Without God, man, left to his own devices, he really messes up. He always messes up.
Yeah,
He can't deal
Zoe,
with it.
One of her angels is going to burn the toast.
Yeah.
It happens.
And I mean, it ties it back even to the book of Revelation. I mean, it's one of those final days of the weddings, right?
Yeah.
We are the bride and he is the groom, and for it to work together, we have to come to understand, and we have to come to be as one.
Yeah, and we can't exist without rules.
No. There's an order to everything.
Yeah, there's an order to everything. Sometimes we're afraid to accept that order because we think that we don't need rules. Well, they've tried. There's cities out in the West where you can type it in cities without rules, and you can Google it, and they tour these cities, and they'll interview people that live in them, and it doesn't work. Even those cities that have no rules, have no police force, have no fire department, have nothing, have problems, and they're setting up rules. Rules are necessary for society to function. But at the same time, we have to know how to approach people to,
You have to look long term, not just in the moment.
Yeah.
Because if people want to say, well, I don't care for rules and everything else. If we really if we want to live in a world without rules, then we might as well bend the day before God decided to bring word into this world. This world was just chaos. There was no order.
It was just chaos. There was no order.
What was the first thing? He said, "Let there be light. Let the water separate from."
He made order.
He
turned
made
it into
order so that way we could have life, because before there was no life.
So if we need to embrace, and I'm going to say it, we need to embrace creation because God so loved the world. Everybody quotes John 3:16. They say, God so loved the world, and they talk about eternal life. God didn't say he loved man in his corrupt way. He said he loved the world, and he put man in charge of it. Man is in charge of the world, and we need to take charge of it. How do we take charge of it? By expressing love to each other, by taking care of each other, and I love Zoe's description of the brick in the window. I love that, Zoe. You said it right. We have to understand in Pastor said it the same way. We have to understand the hurt that person is going through. That's so valid. And you know, I don't know how to say it any other way than we just simply have to love people because they're people and God created them. God created them. So I come back to that business of love, unconditional love. And that's tough. If you got a Karen shouting at you, or you got somebody on the road shaking their fist at you, you know, it's hard to love that person. You know, here's another, this was another experience. I spent a lot of time on the road over the years. I'm coming into a town. There was a lady drove out of a Big Mac or out of a McDonald's or Hardee's or whatever, and it was so clear. She had her malt or her shake, and she was really pulling on that thing. She didn't look right nor left. She rode right straight across 2 lanes of traffic, and I had to almost stop to let her through. You know, and I could have got mad. I didn't. I says, wow, Grandma, you better look. And
Was I alone?
no.
Didn't think so, because I don't remember this.
See,
It's easier to be angry. It's easier to
absolutely it's easier.
to call up and complain because complaining feels satisfactory and it is more fun because you can call up all these people, you can get all of this attention. But being the bigger person, in a sense, being the person who just shows love, who just keeps on moving, you know, with their life, protecting their peace, that's not as glamorous to an extent.
No, you can. It's easy to deal with a bloody nose because you know the next time you're really going to do it.
But it's so easy and satisfactory because of the fact that we've been born into a sinful world.
Yeah.
And it's so easy because that's the flesh we're in. It just, we have all these feelings, we have all these thoughts, and it's just part of this world. And one of the key parts, is, even the scripture says, is that while we may be in this world, doesn't mean we're of this world.
Yeah.
And we can't operate on the earthly ways. We have to operate in the kingdom way.
Peace will come.
Upside down.
When the will of 2 people come together.
Right.
Peace will come.
We're going to make it, honey.
Oh yeah.
We're going to make it.
Yeah. Our will to, oh God.
He's a strong-willed person.
Oh,
And it's, yeah.
you're the one that's strong-willed.
See? So you put 2 strong-willed people together and sparks.
Oh.
Sometimes sparks, but
But
we love each other. So
Yeah.
love conquers all.
yeah, peace comes when your will comes together. And that happens in the church, that happens in community. You could take your community, you will have peace in the community if everyone is interested in the common good, and once the decision is made, everyone support that common good. That's the will of the people. And that's what we need to do. And if you ever talk to any of your government officials and that, they need to speak. They need to speak together. There's no person, I'm going to say this, I don't want to say, I'm learning something from this. I can't even use my own vernaculars. But if you're going to address somebody, you need to recognize that they need to be in unity to make it work. You need to have unity, and then when they make the decision, stand together. Even if you disagree, stand together, because it will make the community a better place to live. It'll make your country a better place to live, and it'll make your relationship a better place. Wanda does a lot of things I don't agree with, but you know what?
That's right.
The shock.
We have the will to stand together.
Yep.
We have the will to stand together. We've been through some tough days. I make no mistake about that. And what I learned from these two youngsters, I call them youngsters, is that they have a deeper understanding than I ever did when I was that age. I didn't have any kind of an understanding whatsoever. And I'm sure that there are many youngsters listening that understand that also. And then I'm going to say something for us oldsters. I'm sure there's a bunch of oldsters. What do those upstarts think they're doing? Well, I'll tell you what they think they're doing. They're expressing their feelings. And this age group that you're looking at here with Zoe and Ricardo, this age group will elect the next president, will elect the next Congress, will elect the next whole works. So for us old people, we better pay attention because they will set the stage. And that's important. That's really important. And it's important that we understand where they're coming from. They don't demonstrate because they want to demonstrate. They demonstrate out of pure frustration. Most of the demonstrations are pure frustrations because somebody didn't listen to them, because somebody ignored them. We need to not ignore each other. We need to listen to each other. We need to bare our souls to each other. And I really appreciate what they've said today.
And pray for each other.
And pray for each other, absolutely. So I got, well, you know, I told you, Zoe, we'd get about 4 points done, and we didn't even get into the, we didn't even get into the notes of the meeting, but think about it. I think we need to do another show, and I think we need to do it on paranoia, because I think we're paranoid.
Fear.
I think the old people are paranoid about what the young generation will do. I think the younger generation is paranoid about what the old generation will do, and are all paranoid about what society is going to do.
Not so much the old people in my generation.
We need to look up, and I say this, we look at the weather, we look at there's multiple wars going on around the world. We need to make peace in this world. We need to make peace in this world. And that is important. And I would say to everyone that's listening, give your life to Jesus Christ. Don't be afraid. Don't worry about it. He's not going to come and zap you with a lightning bolt. What he's going to do is give you revelation and understanding
And love.
and wisdom and love and depth of character. We all need that. I don't care what age you are. If you're 80 or you're 90, some of my friends are in the 90s now. All the other young ones died off. You see, we need to love each other and we need to care for each other. Whatever your age is, that's important. That's absolutely important, because that's the only thing that will carry us through. That's the only thing that will carry us into the next generation, is love, kindness, and consideration. Give your life to Christ. The life will be better. And the sun will come up tomorrow.
Amen.
He is the healer of my soul, the healer